Hello, and welcome to a masterclass on the music of Phil Miller. This one is, as I say, I've got it on my stand here so I can look at it, and this will be later put onto the dots. It's called Phrygian Blues, which is a lovely piece that Phil wrote for his bloody dedicated to the memory of Steve, and it was featured on the album Out of the Blue, along with another piece I'll be looking at later, which is Early Days, looking back at Phil's early sort of influences and how it's affected his later music. So bringing lots of elements in there. One of the things I sort of set myself the challenge to do was see if I could arrange some of Phil's pieces for solo guitar, particularly for the people who are maybe going to look at doing the guitar prize at the Conservatoire at Birmingham. So this will be another along with some of the other pieces I've already put on there. And obviously it's got a very sort of, if you like, almost come from the guitar in a way, because it's got the kind of Phrygian feel to it, almost a Spanish Phrygian, somewhere between the two kind of scales. Which, just looking at it, I mean, if you have a look at the piece before, hopefully you have a look at the solo version and listen to the album version as well to get some ideas putting this one together. In fact, the whole opening, Pete Lima does a beautiful keyboard solo on the album, which is a kind of very open, sort of free piano piece into the main body of the tune. And the version that is going to go up with a play on guitar has also got a kind of opener, sort of free introduction, but sort of looking at the melody and sort of putting reflection over there, and also the kind of Spanish feel to it all that goes through it. So it's almost like a kind of blues with a kind of Spanish feel to it, so it's got sort of various elements in there. Just checking out the form of it, it's got like, once you get to it, it's got an 8-bar introduction around the kind of link chords. Then it goes into, I was looking at it, checking it out, which is basically a 32-bar sequence, but it's not your normal 32-bar sequence. As the music keeps evolving and moving along, rather than it being ABA, there's just certain sections that can look at it and look for the phrasing. And then the ending, which is like the outro. And on the album, or if you're playing this live, you could use the last kind of 8 bars as the outro and to fade it. So it's a kind of very much a bookend kind of piece, where you've got the introduction and then the introduction as the outro. So that's the basic form of the piece for improvising on the main body of tune, is that, the 32-bar sequence. So I'm going to start by explaining the first kind of opening chords. After, obviously, free improvisation could be anything based around quotes from the melody, or to even playing the melody more kind of in a slower color voce style, or playing, you know, looking at the elements from the kind of melody or scale forms. So one thing Phil used to love was the kind of Phrygian sound. What this particular opening chord gives you in the score is that it gives you not just an E minor, but it's got that E minor with a tension at the flat 9, so it's like an 11 chord with a flat 9, which is very characteristic sound of that natural Phrygian. Which in a way is like the natural tuning of the guitar, if you're playing in standard tuning. So a lot of Spanish music, obviously that's the regular kind of straight Phrygian, if you was thinking of it without any kind of different sharps and flats. There's the kind of Spanish Phrygian, which has actually got other elements. If people listen to some pieces like Chick Corea's Last Fiesta and obviously Sketches of Spain and stuff with Miles Davis, which goes back to things like Spain, you know, listen to things like the Rodrigo, I think it was influenced by that with a guitar concerto, in fact. So you're looking at all these elements, he's kind of bringing them together in his own kind of way. So he's got this lovely opening chord with the bass line as well. So I'm going to try and play the first, kind of how it goes around the first sort of cycle of chords. And it's beautiful kind of 3, a gentle sort of 3 gives it its character as well. the very beginning opening chord. They're the basic 4 chords. So you got the E minor going to the F minor. In fact, that comes from the Spanish Phrygian. So the Spanish Phrygian's got this. It's actually got like 2/3 in there, so it's a very quirky scale because you get all these beautiful chords, like you get that one, or you get like you get a lovely, sounds like an E major triad over F bass, back to that, and then this chord here is like an F minor 13. And then that gives you the next chord. That could also have a B flat underneath it, which gives you another flavour of the chord. So it's the same, actually, upper parts, which just shows you really how important bass notes are in the music to create or give you the tension or generate the sound. So it's almost like between those 2 chords, depending on the bass note, and then back. But before it starts the tune, it's got the. So it actually ends on the G11th flat 9, which only happens once before it brings the main tune. And then you got the E. So then the tune comes in, but on the 3rd beat. So 1, 2. What I've done with this is actually kind of harmonise the tune with the chords on the guitar using the notes, if you like, a harmonised scale. So out of a Phrygian scale, which is basically like a C scale really, but starting on an E. But it gives, if you build a chord on that particular degree, it gives you. Okay, you get an E minor, but when you start adding the other flavours in there, that's what gives you more of the characteristics of the Phrygian sound. So obviously the kind of sus sounds gives you that. And if you add, particularly if you add F over the E bass, sometimes people think of the Phrygian like that, with the F triad over E bass. I love this kind of, which is really very much a very open sound. The flat 11, flat 9 is a really kind of very guitaristic thing, so you hear that occurring in quite a few places throughout this composition. Right, so the melody basically follows the line. I'm kind of using a score which has got like both the, what would have been the sax parts and the trumpet parts, so sometimes it would have been used in harmony, which gives it a beautiful sound. But I'm trying to get most of it all on one guitar, so I've tried to take elements from both the top parts and what the basic comping, if you like, chord parts, which is that also gives it the kind of characteristic and the movement as well. So you got the. So that's your basic first 8 bars, which is very kind of got that kind of flavour in the melody. But if you hear what the chords are with it, so you've got this. So you've got these chords. What I've done is take the melody in fourths, off, so basically that's like the old fourths on fourths, but like sort of McCoy Tyner type thing, except we're doing it from the Phrygian scale, which gives a kind of very open sound. So I'm using that in some of the harmony ideas until the harmony changes, of course. So the first phrase I was thinking about how I could come up with this to get it to feel right. So I'd played this many times. I love this composition. Obviously the bass player in the band, but like playing it the full version, really trying to get the whole thing in on one guitar. Took me a little bit of thinking about, but here it goes. This is the first phrase harmonised. I'll do it as far as that. So basically what I've done there is tried to get the bass notes and the chords. In fact, the first chord is just what was said, E11, flat 9, so that gives me the kind of Spanish Phrygian sound. The second bar is actually, Phil's got it down, written down as A flat major 7, sharp 5, sharp 11. So let's see where that chord particularly comes from. It's a kind of very pivotal chord in some ways. Some people will see that as a kind of C triad over an A flat. There's another way he's got it written down here on the 4 bars after. So you've got this melody, which in a way is a very sort of Lydian sound, except instead of that we've got this. If I put that in there, that gives me the sharp 5. So it's an unusual chord, but it's actually part of a chord scale again. So there's notes and elements that come from the other scale, but this is actually more like an F minor scale or F melodic. So that's why sometimes you get these interchangeable chords depending on how the bass is functioning. So to get this nice big sound, so you've got the third, and then that. So that's basically. If you like, it's coming from an F melodic jazz minor, or the fixed melodic minor, which I know Phil was very fond of the different elements and harmony that was used throughout that scale as well, and combine it with other things. And this is a case where it works wonderful as a pivot point. So you've got this melody there, which is so that's basically the 4th degree is actually there, or the 11th. You want to put the 7th and the 5th, and this. So that's where your sharp 5 comes from, because that's the chord. If I build a triad, you get an augmented triad and with a major 7th, which comes on that degree. Also in the harmonic minor as well, but in this case I'm looking at all the elements of the melody around it. That's a nice open chord. And then that chord against that kind of gives you that F minor sound, or if you like E over F, that's another way of looking at it. He calls it F minor 6 9 flat 5, which is kind of correct in a way. 1 2 3 4 5. Very often, if you've got root notes, the way when you're working chords out, sometimes just count up the steps in the scale when you're trying to find it, so you get a more accurate thing rather than some kind of upside down enharmonic chord, which can be difficult. I know for brass players sometimes they prefer to see different ways because of the harmonic series when they're trying to improvise and get certain configurations with notes and in difficult keys as well. So this particular chord, so it gives you that wonderful chords, which kind of come from a lot of Spanish music. And then the so we get this one, we get the phrasing, and this time it seems to pivot each bar, if you like, 2-bar phrase seems to pivot between these two chords in some shape. Or this time he uses the F minor 6 9. You could play that. It's just simply a B flat on the 3rd beat, because with that Spanish flavour there. Then we get into the kind of blues feel there. Now I've not got the hands big enough to reach that, so to play those notes on the guitar from the G, which is basically in the melody. The next section, which is G13, is going down as G13th, but with those notes, and it sounds more like a 13th. It's quite hard to get on there. That's one manoeuvre. What I come up with. The only way to try and get it, just play a straight G7. and then to play it up higher, the G sharp higher with the notes. Because the main thing I'm trying to do here is get what the kind of how the melody's working and try not to leave things out. Now I could just play straight A 13th. It's got a bit of a kind of gliss and a triplet there. I could do it with that, or what I come up with is I found just simple. I actually put a diminished on there, which is kind of part of the chord scale anyway. If you're playing one of those again, which is the half whole version of the symmetric or the diminished, so from an A root. Could even do that if I want to make it more out sounding. We've got very because what I'm thinking of here is how can I make this practical playable on the guitar, so that was the challenge. And then this next chord, which is basically that note's there in the melody, so I've got the 13th on the top, and then which is the kind of blues sweep. Yeah, trying to play that, that was the. So I run out of fingers there, so I try to. So somebody might have bigger hands than me and be able to play that chord no problem. So, and then this was a bit of a pivoting exercise. The next chord here, we've got. It says an A7 flat 9 with a C sharp in the bass. Basically, that means it's just an A7th, which gives it a nice progression to the next chords, which is D minor. So it's almost moving into the sort of D minor territory at this point. So this particular chord there, I worked out I could try and get the melody. So that moves from there to there. So I've got the. So in a way, what does that note mean there? It's almost like more like a kind of sharp 5 scale resolving to a perfect 5th. Or you could technically call that probably better to call it a flat 6 or flat 13. Okay, so we've got these two chords. This was a okay, another way of doing that is it depends on. Another way you could. That's a bit of a stretch, I found, but that's another way of playing that chord to get the flat 9 in there as well as 7th. So, and that gives them a. So the open G gives me the 7th. So there's me flat 7th with that chord there. And then resolving to a D minor, that'll work, or he's got it written as D minor flat 6, which is either in the natural minor scale or in the harmonic minor, D harp. Right, this part of the melody. So that's kind of got the E7th, so I can use a nice low E. So we've got the melody, which is it's kind of doing. It's got it's a sharp 11th. That's just a third actually. To the 7th. So we've got that particular sound. He's got a chord written E7 flat 9, which is the. Which comes from basically the A minor scale. So we've got that. There's the melody, and then I'll put the bass. Because what I'm looking at is trying to keep some continuity in the bass to keep the line moving, or I'm putting arpeggios in across the chords because I've got no drum or anything else. So sometimes to give a nice feeling of time, it's nice if I'm implying the time with either comping or all the notes that I'm using, and then this chord after that. So that's that one again. The F minor 6/9, but with again. Now what I've done at this point, when we're getting to the second half of the melody, so I'm just really, I could just call that F minor 6/9. Again, so it's really coming from the F melodic minor scale. So there's lots of juicy flavours in there, because this pivots, and this gets you now to what's almost like you get in the 5 chord of blues in some ways, except it was the melody notes. So with a B in the bass, if we play a B flat 7th, sharp 9 or plus 9 has got here, so we get, and then the bass note. Next chord is just a B flat, B7 flat 9, which is coming from that scale in some ways. Again, listen, and then it's got B7 plus 9 plus 5, if you like. That means basically in the language sharp 9, sharp 5 augmented. So there's your melody note. There's your. Underneath it is actually the 9th, which is in the second part actually, the trumpet, which you can either. So what I try to do there is to get the melody to kind of move with the part. So. Okay, and then we get towards the end of it. So the way, luckily, I've got an open string there, so I could play. Which is a very characteristic thing of flamenco, where you've got drone strings. So I thought I could use this to good effect, and use that as just a pull off there. And then here, now there's some options there with another A flat passing note, but I just use just that basically the B flat 7, and the B natural against it in the melody. That's almost like a passing note to get you. Now the chords that go with that part of the melody. So I try to think how we'll get around. Another one is to I could use a E again because it's like a B leading dominant. So that's given me some possibilities of pivot chords that. So we've got that chord there, B minor. So what I do there, because I think it's moving towards. So what's the 2-5 one in A minor, but it doesn't go to A minor. Goes to somewhere else altogether, which is a nice surprise. So we've got this chord, which is using the open strings of the guitar on a B minor 7th chord in that position. And then this chord, again, E7 flat 9, but it's actually in the melody. It's got a bit of a quirky passing note there, which is, well, it could be from, could be on one of the symmetric scales, but keeping it simple. just to, if you like, the diminished. And then, right, okay, C7 sharp, this really puts us in a different space. This is kind of summing up the bit where we're getting towards the coda section. So that's C7, sharp 9, sharp 11. So I'll bet, in fact, it's all there in the melody. So the great thing is with some compositions, parts of these chords are there because between the bass notes and the melody and maybe the guide tones, the 7th and the 3rd, give you the upper tones, which give you the upper structure. I could just do that. Then basically you've got that group of chords, the 8 bars at the end, which goes back to the sign. So for everybody playing it, then you're onto the structure. You can either play the melody again with harmony, or we could look at the elements of improvisation around that particular tune. So I hope that makes it clear. So we come from the C sharp, then we get into the last 8 bars, which is very much a kind of blues phrase into it, except it's against this. So you would have somebody probably hold that note on a long note on a trumpet or somewhere else, or on the sax or synth or lead guitar, particularly if you're doing duets and things. But so yeah, that's the way out. Then it's got this group of chords. Now the ending, or as I like to think of it, as kind of the coda section. It's you know, you just repeat the last 4 bars and fade. So that's down to kind of musician at the time. Also, that could be used for anybody trying to do this. Maybe if they've got a nice looper, they might fancy just layering those chords down the last 8 bars and playing round that, because that leaves a lot of possibilities to do a nice kind of build towards the end of the piece. So we'll look into that further. Right, for improvising, okay, we've just said the scales. What's a good thing to do is to try and sing this in your mind, the whole tune and the harmony, to really get familiar with the structure of it. Because it's got a few places that keep taking you to areas. One is a classic thing with Phil in this, the middle of this piece, is all the rising chords you've got. So let's look at the beginning. It's kind of pivoting around these 2 chords. And that part. So basically, between all these the chords in the first 8 bars, it's pivoting between the 2 scales in a way. So you got, if you're thinking kind of modes or scales, I mean, I tend to think of what the melodic hooks are more, but at least you've got something to go at here with it. It's very descriptive, the chords against if you like, the chord scales. So it's. But some people call them. Sometimes that's referred to as an augmented scale, you know, or Lydian augmented, because you've got the, instead of a 5th, perfect, which is all coming back from that F minor jazz melodic skip, where you get all these beautiful flavours of chords. So between the 2, that's your basic pivot scale. Notes until we get to these rising chords, which happens after the 8th bar. We start moving into that. You get this chord. So that moves into. They're basically just. So you could treat them just as rising. Treat that as straight 7 blues, move into okay, because I've noticed a few things in there, but the characteristics, that's rising, basically that's giving the whole movement. What's happening is the general root movement is moving up. So after the B flat, so that gives me to the. Obviously, you can use passing notes and things for flavours, but there's your main kind of scale. I mean, that could be natural. So you could stay in the harmonical melodic there with the kind of chord tensions and the. There, okay, he's got E7 flat 9. So phrases out the half whole steps. Pivoting between that scale. And then goes to a straight Phrygian flavor. Again, the Spanish Phrygian could be used in the. Again, using these things with care and that, because like scale, sometimes talking about it, it's really how does it sound in the context of the music and where is it moving to, rather than it being, oh yeah, you can use every scale and I don't need every note of it anyway, I just want to think where the structure of the tune's going. So right, we'll get to this section. So we've arrived at B7. So if you've got that chord, the flat 9 and the. So it's basically a similar scale. And then we've got the B7 plus 9, so. And then ending on the kind of more flat 9, 7. So you've really got a choice of flavors. So really the one that sticks out more is that. So we get to. So the B7 is more like the symmetric diminished half tone. It's just that one, the 7, 9 plus. Gives you this other wonderful thing, which is the altered scale, altered, super lock. Which pivots nicely. Gets you back to E minor. It's kind of like the B with a pass. All that. And that. Now this chord can be treated, so we've got the 2-5-1 if you like, A minor, but it goes to C sharp. So it's given that chord in the melody, sorry, the melody with a. So I can do also, can put. Sounds like playing at 2 keys at once. Basically, it's because it's the old symmetric scale if you play. So you keep moving up in minor thirds, you get all the different. So what it is, you got, if you like, pivot notes between the two. In a way, it's kind of substitute. For this third chord in their Phrygian blues scale, it's going to give you that. Like these lovely So that E, I mean, like a lot of Spanish music, think of Malagueña, does the typical against an E pedal. What's happened here is Phil's used the F as a pedal, which gives this kind of outside spacey sound versus an E triad over an F. It's like F major 7th chord, but with a G sharp. So that's basically the two kind of chord scales the using for the outro as well. So that gives you a lot of space, a lot of flavours to go at. So yeah, if you want to have a listen to some of the ideas, you might hear some of that in various versions that are going to play in the future, and the one that I've put up in the masterclasses, the rest of the performance of it. So I hope that gives you something out of that, and well, have fun with it and see where you get to.